Good morning. My name is Denise Sanchez, and I'm a junior at Cypress Bay High School. My team and I have been working to find preventative measures for natural disasters. Our research has increased our awareness of the multiple problems of implementing preventative measures and has brought us to various solutions. My research question is, what is the most effective way to prepare societies for the impacts of natural disasters? Preventative measures for natural disasters are a set of actions taken prior to prepare or mitigate the effects of natural disasters. Examples of preventative measures include availability of medical supplies, storing food and water, having shelter, and getting necessary sanitation supplies. These measures are implemented by various entities such as governments, intergovernmental agencies, IGOs, non-governmental agencies, NGOs, businesses, and private citizens. These agencies have logistical systems to facilitate the distribution of supplies to affected populations. These organizations use these systems for devising disaster plans and gathering emergency supplies. To have a clear set of necessary supplies and processes, communication between different agents is necessary in order to manage the scarcity of supplies, prevent competition between organizations, and limit unsolicited supplies. Preventative measures are used to help organizations navigate the changing and unstable situations that may arise in the wake of a natural disaster. My team consists of Maria J. Rivas and Anastasia Gonzalez. Our research has increased our awareness of the multiple problems of implementing preventative measures for natural disasters and has brought us to different solutions. Maria is focusing through ethical, economical, and medical lenses on creating an awareness campaign to bring donations to refugees in need, and is partnering with government agencies to create legislation to help refugees. However, her solution is expensive and difficult for countries to implement. My other teammate, Anastasia Gonzalez, is regulating emergency mandates through moral, economical, and political lenses. She plans to speak to government officials about building stronger infrastructures that will be able to withstand the damage of natural disasters. While infrastructure is a major part in preventing damage, it is difficult for the government to set aside funding for infrastructure improvement. Even though my state and global initiatives will require medium to long-term commitments, my solution will be more beneficial. We will establish short-term objectives to show year-over-year improvements. Improvements will be easier to fund and organize, since most of the entities I will be working with have the funds and resources available. My local solution is to introduce an awareness campaign with a local organization to create a workshop for the families of Cypress Bay that will help them create a disaster emergency plan. The emergency plan workshops will guide families on how to plan for natural disasters and unexpected circumstances. My global solution is to partner with the UN to create a set of universal standards that will facilitate the coordination of aid between NGOs and governments. These standards will create communication channels as well as improve the logistics of disaster planning. Through political, economical, and educational lenses, my solution will help private citizens and organizations prepare for natural disasters in the countries of Japan, Chile, and the US. Politically, in the United States, the use of private actors is used in conjunction with government aid when there are natural disasters. Often, natural disaster prevention is left to government organizations. Patrick Roberts, an associate professor at Virginia Tech, says how FEMA isn't the cavalry and how solely relying on the federal government can hinder natural disaster aid. The less educated, poorer, younger individuals, and minorities that are the least prepared for natural disasters are often reliant on political interests. This chart by Stein et al. 2004 represents the demographics most affected by Hurricane Ike in Houston's Harris County. Using NGOs, natural disaster planning can give directed and specialized support to protect minority populations that are the most vulnerable to disaster. Economical. Natural disasters impact the United States economically, causing $22 billion in damages in 2018. The cost of hazard mitigation is financed by private individuals and is long-term and capital-intensive. People with higher economic levels are more prepared than those with lower level. Using private actors can help people with lower socioeconomic status acquire hazard mitigation or buy emergency supplies. Educational. Natural disaster education is imperative to helping the United States reduce their costs and damages. Every $1 spent on hazard mitigation saves the nation $6 in future disaster costs. However, many people cannot afford to protect their homes even if they're aware of the benefits. Lower socioeconomic classes are less likely to be prepared for hazards. Even with government assistance available, these populations have a general distrust of government workers and agencies. Using NGOs and nonprofits to help at-risk populations who are wary of government assistance and educating them on the possible alternatives that are in their means will not only decrease the national spending, but it will also help populations with lower socioeconomic level. Japan. Politically. Japan is constantly affected by natural disasters such as tsunamis and earthquakes, and the chaotic situations can lead to a breakdown in communication between private organizations and government. For example, participants in the Yamamoto et al. 2022 study were working both as public officials and healthcare workers at the time of the Great East Japan earthquake. Maintaining both jobs in disaster put a great psychological burden on them and led to decreased quality of patient care. The participants comment on the lack of planning and delegation of work by the government and hospitals. Increasing cooperation between private organizations and the Japanese government can maximize the coverage of aid given to populations affected by natural disasters. Japan. Economical. According to Maadal 2022, 80% of disaster planning is logistics. Major natural disasters will sever communication supply lines and make the coordination of efforts between different actors challenging. This graph shows both the global and local mechanisms of organizations that are working jointly to prepare for disaster relief management. Joint cooperation is especially important for the movement of supplies as well as the quantity of relief supplies. Supplies can be limited since most natural disasters paralyze the transportation network, stopping the flow of local and international supplies. This especially applies to local private organizations, which can suffer shortages due to damage. Education about how to support the relief effort can help stop unnecessary supply donations made by the public. During the 2010 Tohoku earthquake, it was noted that unsolicited supplies were donated at the wrong time and in excessive volume. Education about disaster preparation can also help the population's health. This graph shows a preparation checklist that organizations need to focus on to prevent diseases. For example, planning shelters correctly to avoid overcrowding and spreading of diseases. Chile. In 2010, when an earthquake hit Chile's second largest city of Concepcion, the Chilean government learned to specifically concentrate their efforts on the formation of interagency relationships. They describe how natural disaster events are when various agencies come together to help the humanitarian effort. However, they fail at achieving cohesion. These agents face conflicts that affect their productivity, stability, and adaptability. A type of conflict can be when organizations have different priorities for the same set of goals. The constant infighting between organizations to achieve the same goals slows down the relief effort. When organizations have coordinated and prepared between each other, they are able to extend beyond themselves and orient towards a more coordinated system. In March 2015, the largest hydrometeorological event in history hit Chile. The damages were estimated at more than $1.5 billion. Between 1994 and 2013, around $2.6 trillion were spent on natural disasters in Chile. Currently, 54% of Chile's population is exposed to natural disasters, and the high expenditure on natural disasters has created the need of adapting multi-hazard approach to prepare for natural disasters. While the government is a major part of natural disaster preparation, NGOs can also serve a critical role in helping the affected populations. Even NGOs that have resources of $250 billion and smaller agencies who have 10 million or less can help the community that might not get the support from the government. The infographic shows NGOs in Chile based on their disposable capital. In Chile, floods made up 43% of all natural events registered between 1993 and 2013. In general, the people in Chile said that they were significantly more prepared for earthquakes than floods. The 2015 flood in the Atacama region, which the Brockman et al. 2019 study research, showed a need to improve preparedness strategies, programs, and plans to face extreme hydrometeorological events. The questionnaire shown here has assessed the focus group on the preparedness in the workplace and at home. They were asked on two different types of disasters, floods and earthquakes. The research interviewed 179 participants who were randomly selected based on their population forecast for the Atacama region. The questionnaire shows how men are more prepared for floods than women because of the regulatory training at their jobs. It shows that private organizations educate their employees on natural disasters and have an impact on their preventative measures. My local solution is to create a club in school that would bring awareness to natural disasters planning by holding workshops. These workshops would help students and their families have the necessary resources and information to know how to get the supplies to be prepared for a natural disaster. The workshops would also help them create a family emergency plan that would allow all members of the family to know how to prepare for a natural disaster. We would start our efforts locally, but would look to expand our club to other schools within my country and state. Globally, we would contact intergovernmental agencies like the United Nations or NGOs like the Red Cross to create a list of standards and procedures that NGOs and governments would follow in order to create an efficient system for international aid. These standards will help create communication between governments, international aid organizations, as well as local charities. We'd also advocate for an international and intergovernmental body that would facilitate resource channels, making access to relief aid such as food and medicine easier and faster to acquire. These changes in policies would set clear guidelines that would help both governmental and private organizations, and will help the case ease the relief efforts later on. Thank you, Cambridge, for the opportunity to present my research topic and solutions. I urge for more research to be conducted. Here are my references.